A pleasant good morning to everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Yours truly, Carlos Brown. Here's what's trending on the Carlos Brown Show for today, June 28th. And by the way, our guest menu is the panel. I'll tell you more about the upcoming weeks with featured guests. Why are there so many Achilles injuries in basketball? It has been a fascinating conversation all week about that type of injury, and we'll kind of get the panel's perspective on it. There's no wrong or right in this, it's just opinions and perspectives. But something has to be done to help minimize those injuries. Um, Also, the NBA Finals is over with. We have crowned a champion. OKC, they get it done. We'll get into that as well. And then also, um, I'll have a kind of a heart-to-heart conversation about investing in student athletes as far as how college athletics is going now with the NIL and collectives, facilities. As I've often stated, it's in college athletics the haves and the have-nots, and it is the gap is getting wider and wider. I had a chance to have a discussion with a student athlete and someone close to the Southern University program. And it's just not including Southern program, but all of our HBCUs. We've got to do more to help. And leaders in leadership, they have to lead more. With that being said, let's introduce the panel one by one. Or they're going to come in all at once. How about that? We have Coach Vann Pettaway. Good morning,
Morning.
sir.
Good morning.
We have Charles Edmond. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And I call him the sixth man, but a sixth man that could start. Ossie Clark. And maybe we should not even say the sixth man, but he's always there to help when needed. When I give him a call, he's there for me. So I appreciate everyone. How is
Good
everyone
morning,
doing?
gentlemen. Good morning.
Good morning. How is everybody doing?
Everybody's well. It's hot as
Yep.
fish grease, Carlos. It's hot out here.
Yes, sir.
You know, I understand that, and we've had discussions before with the heat combined with the humidity. Some places are more humid than others, but when you're in an area that used to be mostly swamp, it's humid. It's like the
really
rain.
hot.
It's like the rainforest, but it's hot all over. So everyone, please, please be careful. Now, let me say this, and let me get this off my chest right now. I haven't slept good all in the last couple of days because, I kind of had a conversation um, with someone close to the program, and it's just not unique to Southern, but we know how college athletics is going. You heard me say it's a gap between the haves and have-nots. What can we do to help those student athletes? Coach Pettaway's always said it. Austin, Charles, and Willa Brown, who will join us in a little bit. It's all about the student athletes. And, I always kind of talk about Jackson State from the rivalry standpoint. Last week we had that conversation. But one thing Jackson State is doing right, and I just had to take a hard look at it. They help with the collectives. They have an AD who, on other shows they've had ranked the ADs. He comes at the top. And yeah, I just have to take a hard look at it. They have collectives, and it's not like the collectives of the major colleges, but they're doing something. They have a new weight room, pretty much, and the collectives. And kids today, student athletes, Coach Pettaway, it's different. When you were coaching it, it's different. One of the few things they look at is they like to get paid, and in the facility. And so for specifically Southern University, we have to do more. We really have to do more. We have to help. And then when it comes down to it on the playing field, there's pressure. We always talk about that expectation, but expectations need investment to help those expectations become reality. So we just have to do more across the board to help with facilities. Um, and as much as I talked about, well, college athletics has changed and the transfer report and stuff, it's part of the reality now. So the question is, how do we help? And then leaders, uh, people of influence and leadership, they have to lead. They have to take the lead. So with that, I kind of got that off my chest. I couldn't even sleep last night. If I could do take care of all their needs, I would do it. But I know I can only do so much. The alumni, we need you. We need you to help. Okay. All right,
Yep.
cool. Anybody want to?
No, Carlos, you're absolutely correct. It's going to come down to outside resources in order for us to remain competitive. The NILs and the collective, that's all new for now. But you got to really think about this now. Under the table, athletes have been being paid for decades now. Okay,
Yeah.
because I'll tell you, I coached and I recruited. But back in the 80s, a center that could play, they were going for $150,000. Now that's in the 80s. They were going for $150,000. If you approach some athletes, not all of them now, they were looking for the suitcase. The suitcase has changed to a bag now, and the bag is even bigger. It's even larger. But it was illegal back then. So now they have made it legal to give these kids money. And did you all miss what came out of the NBA draft? They were talking about how many of the kids that left college were losing money by coming to the NBA. So in other words, they are legally getting more. Some of those kids are getting more money in college than they're looking at playing on the next level. And then they talk about basketball players, and then they went to football players. Like they talked about the Manning kid from Texas, how much money he will be making at Texas versus what a rookie contract would look like in the NFL. So if we're going to continue to compete, HBCUs, if we're going to be viable, if we're going to get top quality players, our alumni, our friends of the alumni, they've got to come together with these collectives. The collectives, what's going on now, because I promise you, when you talk to these coaches, when they go out recruiting, most of the time, how much is the bag? How much am I going to get, coach? They get you up front so you don't have to waste your time and their time. And it was back that way back in the 80s when I first started coaching. It was the same way. There were certain programs you knew not, you didn't stand a chance going in there. And the coaches would tell you, hey, coach, you don't have any money. Why are you here after my kids? You have a high school coach telling you stuff like that. Nowadays, you still got to deal with AAU coaches. They have control over the kids. Everything right now is all about the almighty dollar. Facilities, yeah, they still want to see nice facilities. But right now, the big thing is, how much can you do for me and my family? That's what they're looking at.
And let me say this, Coach, because I see the comments coming in. One of them has to be my uncle.
Uh-oh.
But the kids that are at our HBCUs, no matter what sport, they see what's going on, but they really want to be there. You see what I'm saying? Because I get it. Jackson State it helps them with their collective. They've got what is the group
the 1400?
Yeah, congrats to them. They're helping. And yeah, Southern's gotten 26 transfers in. Actually, that number will be a little bit shorter when it officially uh, comes out. But those are kids that want to be there. And oh, by the way, Coach Pettaway, Coach Shade, he called me right before the show. Something came up, and I just kind of was telling him about some of the topics we were going to have. And he said even at Alabama A&M, they need more. Right. So I'm just not singling out Southern University, but Jackson State, they get it. They're helping. Every little bit helps. It's a start. And I don't think you can wave a magic wand and have all of these things that are needed in a year, but you can start. You can start now. Leaders have to lead. So with that being said, go ahead, Austin and Charles.
I was going to say the days of actually being able to go to Walmart and Sam's and actually find a linebacker or running back or a quarterback, those days are long over. And the simple fact of the matter is this, guys, this is no longer amateur athletics. Everybody across the board now is going to find some form of compensation. And for Black colleges in particular, they're going to have to find a way to level the playing field as much as humanly possible. I don't know how much you followed college softball. The young lady that's at the University of Texas Tech, at Texas Tech University, she's getting $1.5 million just to play college softball.
Yep.
That tells you right now that most of your athletes are going to forego probably some form of professional athletics because of what Coach just mentioned, that their rookie contracts are not going to even average to what they would be making in college. It's an incentive to stay. Also, I believe it was, the Texas catcher this year decided to stay his senior year because of the amount of money that he was going to get paid. So most of these young men and ladies that are leaving colleges, they're going to leave with stacks. They're going to leave with the bag. They're going to leave with a lot of money. So right now, the days of being able to say, oh, well, we'll take money from your meal plan and pay you, those days are gone. So we're going to have to find a collective way across the board to ensure the fact that the student athletes that we want, if we want quality athletes at our institutions, we're going to have to find a way to make that happen.
Yep.
And Charles? Yet still, they're expected to win 8 and 9 games. Look, I have to take a seat back. Every year, you guys ask me what's the prediction? 9, 10, 11 in the championship, right? But then you look at I had to reflect. You look at the real hard facts. They need help. And it's all about the student athletes.
Yep, it is about the student athletes. And, I'm having these conversations with fans. I've had conversations with our athletic director with this new landscape. It is going to be a challenge. I mean, look, the $2 million Texas Tech softball thing and the Manning thing, that's unrealistic for us. As you brought it up, Carlos, and I understand you've had sleepless nights, and it is worrisome for me as well, because we want to get the best athletes we can get at our level. But how much is it costing us? How much do student athletes want? Is it about just getting their Pell Grant back? Is it about making sure their refund comes in on time? Is it just about that, or is it that and a little bit more, or a lot more in some cases? And I think for us, our collective, our 1871 collective, that we're getting off the ground, and we're going to have to continue to invest into that, because that's going to help pay the student athletes. What is the going rate for a good quarterback in the Southwestern Athletic Conference? What does that look like? Forget Texas, forget Alabama, forget Georgia. What about in the SWAC? What is the market for that? I mean, can we even do that? And so I think the challenge is going to be from leadership at the top, as you mentioned, all the way down to the athletic director, all the way down to the collective, all the way down to the alumni. And all those entities have to come together to pour money and resources. Because I do think, the facility standpoint, we had to have that all along. We always had to have a good weight room, even though that's been talked about. But it is about the almighty dollar. I talked with Cedric Thornton, who was our defensive coordinator when he was at Grambling. one of the first phone calls he got, or he was calling a recruit. And the first question that he was asked of, hey, coach, how much am I getting paid? And this was before it was even legal.
Right.
So this is what it's about now. If you're not talking about dollars right off the jump, it's going to be difficult. Now, you do have the old hardliners in which it is about facilities. It is about the history of the university. Mama played for Alcorn. Daddy played for Southern. Daddy played for Alabama A&M. You want to do that. But kids want to get paid. They want money in their pocket while they're in school, however way it works. That's just the way it is now. I mean, for me, I didn't have a job when I was in school until my latter years. Mama sent me money, but those days are gone. Kids want dollars in their pocket. They got cars, they got insurance. And so what can we do to take care of them to make sure that they're squared away? Student athletes, it doesn't matter. We're talking about student athletes. So I think it's a challenge that I think it's going to be difficult right now, but we have to continue to have the hard, brutal conversation, because if we're going to win at the highest level that we want to win, we griping and moaning about going 6-6, but you've got a fifth string wide receiver playing quarterback. That happened last year in SWAC football, even though, Andrew Body went down, but still you want to have a quality quarterback behind that. So I think it's going to be a challenge. I think it's a shock to our systems. And to be honest, I think we're only going to do what we can do. I think schools like Alabama State, Jackson State, as you mentioned, is in position, but we don't know as far as their student athletes and what they're looking for and getting paid. I hope that's the case. Ashley Robinson's the AD to do it. If there's one AD that can pull it off, Ashley Robinson can pull it off, and it looks like he's doing that. But it is a tall task. It is a tall order, and we have to take it one step at a time. And I think we're a long ways from that right now. But if we're going to continue to be competitive, we're going to have to step it up.
Can I ask a question real quick, Carlos, before we, because since Charles and Coach are here, what does actually opt in mean right now for the SWAC? Because that's what everybody's been talking about here, that the SWAC has opted in with everybody else with revenue and collectives. What does that actually mean when we say opt in?
Good question. We talked about it last week. The conference as a whole said we're going to opt in, meaning as far as specifically football, they're talking about scholarships. They have the opportunity to go up to the maximum amount. But now we said last week, very few. I mean, I talked to some of the Southern coaches. They're not going to go to the maximum. But what they could do is spread out some of those scholarships and add a few more. But as a conference, they have said that they have opted in to the house settlement, and basically they're going to have to do their part. Even paying those former student athletes and now the athletes now. Thus, we get back to some institutions are in a better position to start. And Charles was talking about, we got to have the hard conversations. I talked to some people said that they are having the hard conversation. We've got to make it to step one. Everybody's talking about it, but you got to see some action. And no, it's going to take some time. But the first step to a long journey is making the first step. Now, I remember Coach Pettaway said they're kind of paying the athletes at Alabama A&M. That's a start. So when does it get old where we always talking about the conversation? When are you going to make the first step? We had Coach Banks on a year ago, several months ago, and they were talking about getting a collective started up.
Yeah, but see that at Alabama A&M, they were just doing the minimum. Like those kids were getting like $400 or $500 a month, during the academic year. And then AD Bryant, he had started trying to build a collective. They're asking the alumni to donate. And if you go to A&M's website, that's the first thing that pops up out there now, asking people to become a part of it. And Carlos, it's going to come down to to the alums, the friends of the alums, because some of our alumni, they got access to influential people that can help your athletic department. And that's what it's going to come down to. So now, not only our athletic directors and our presidents have to buy into this, but also the alumni have to understand that if you're going to remain competitive, you got to be able to do something. You got to be able to give these kids something. Because, see, here's a scenario that we're faced with now. Before they brought out the NILs and all of this, paying these athletes, we would get some of the kids, some of the talent that did not want to sit on the bench at some of the major universities. So we could get them to come play for us. Well, now you're not getting those kids because they got a bag to sit now. You know, the larger schools are offering these kids money to make sure that they got depth in their particular sports. And see, Ozzy, all the SWAC has done is given us an opportunity to increase our rosters. It's not mandatory. You have the ability to increase it, but that's going to depend on each institution as to what they can do and what they can afford. But now all that's going to do is continue to widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots in the SWAC, just like it's widening the gap right now between your Power Fours and the other Division I schools, because they have the money. And when you really look at it, we're only talking about maybe 5 to 6 Power 4 schools that can actually afford to do the maximum on everything, because all Division I schools are not turning a profit in athletics. You know, there were only a handful that were turning a profit. So that gap is going to become larger, because now the kids that we normally would be able to get, you can convince some of those kids, son, why would you want to go there and you're going to have either no minutes or limited minutes when you can come play for me and you're going to have minutes to play. Well, now the kids are satisfied because they got a bag. They got money. See, it's not like when we went to school. I had to scuffle to get money to take a girl out on a date, man. You know, I had to scuffle to get money to put gas in my car. Yeah, I had a car, but I worked my butt off in high school so that when it was time to go to college, I would have a car to go off to school with. But in order for me to survive, I knew that my parents were not going to send me money. All right. I knew that I had to either work. My choice, honestly, I joined the ROTC program, because that $100 a month back in the day, that was enough for me to do what I needed to do. It kept me going. It kept me putting insurance in my car. The money that I made through that, the money that I made in part-time jobs, and then still had to try to be an athlete. But the kids don't have to do all that stuff now because they got a bag. They're getting a bag. And if we're going to compete, we have to come as close to that as possible for our level. No, we're not going to be giving out $1 million contract.
No.
Man, we got to be able to give these kids something, man, other than saying you getting a free education. They get a free education from anywhere they go. So what separates your institution from the next institution, whether it's in the SWAC, the MEAC, or the Southland? What separates your institution from the other schools? Because all of them are giving out scholarships. So that's what we got to look at, man.
Well said, as people in the chat room are saying. And, you know, there were some, now I'm going back to Southern, there were some groups that came forth and they wanted to do like what Jackson State's foundation and alumni groups are doing. So they were there, but it seemed to be some disconnect with those organizations starting up and with the people of influence, athletics, and as we call here locally, the back of the campus on the academic side. So they all got to come together. That's the thing now, because you're going to get left behind.
Yep.
You know, I don't want to get specific, but it was a player that, hey, looking for a place to go. He comes from a big time school. His question was, I need $5,000. You know what that means? $5,000.
Yeah.
So this is where we're at now. This is where we're at, literally. And each one on the panel, you've given your perspective, and I agree. Where do we go from here? Now we have to stop talking about it and start making the first step, because 2 years from now we'll have those hard conversations, Charles.
Yeah.
But can we go and show that we've made step 1, step 2? That's where it's at now. And I love the student athletes at our universities now because they have options.
Mm-hmm.
But they came anyway. Yeah. As somebody said, the dad may have gone there, the grandfather as a legacy.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we need to help all of us. That includes me. What can I do? And I understand economically, some of us are challenged, but we can do something.
Yeah.
Something.
Right. And then on the Power 5, look at what Power 4. Let me tell you what some of the people are doing. They're raising student activity fees to help with the collective. They're adding not a hitting cost. They're adding a cost to a season ticket, letting you know that money is going towards the athletes. So they're doing it on their level. Now, when it's time for us to do it, man, some of the alumni now they're gonna go crazy if our ADs were to do that. Say, hey, we're gonna add $25 more on our season ticket just for the athlete. We have to understand this. These are the times that we're living in now. And if you want to run an athletic department, a successful one, these are some of the things, some of the changes that have to come about. They're necessary if you're going to compete.
Well, Ossie asked the question about opting in, and I spoke with our athletic director, had a long interview with him the other day, and he talked about what the opting in means. You're opting into those terms, which means an increased, potentially, if you can afford it, an increased roster limit. I mean, obviously 105, I don't think any of our schools are going to do that. But you have to think about it now. I mean, he kind of broke it down to me. So you have student athletes who want to get paid, even though they may not be in the mix of maybe starting. Everyone on that roster wants to get something. And so I think that's where it used to be walk-ons. It used to be not getting money, as Coach McNair used to say when he was at Alcorn, putting them on some money. Now you got to put everybody on some money. Well, where's that money coming from? All right, so you got to figure out a way to put them on some kind of money, which comes from within your athletic coffers or the collective or however way it goes. And so when that doesn't happen, then you have a problem. But our athletic director did mention the fact that, hey, if your roster is 75 anyway, then that's what it's probably going to be. But now you've got to put that 75 on some money as compared to what you were doing in the past, which you had walk-ons and others. So now you got to find money within your coffers, however way you want to do it, collective, however way to make that happen. And I think that's going to be the challenge. I think what Jackson State did, I think, if I'm not mistaken, and help me out with it, Ashley Robinson, I think early on in the offseason raised ticket prices by $2. I think one went to the band and one went to the collective. Help me with that if I may not be totally right on that. $2 just to see, and $1 of that was going to the collective, if I'm not mistaken. Help me if I'm not right about that. But I think he was trying something to see what kind of money that could come in, even though it's just $1 or $2. So I think, yes, we are going to have to do that. Our athletic director did mention that nothing's going to happen this upcoming year. Ticket prices and all that have already been set. Season tickets have already been sold. So this year is going to kind of be status quo. But starting next year, for us anyway, I'm just speaking for Alcorn because I just spoke with our AD about it. That's going to be the challenge. And there are some coaches that have left SWAC programs because of a lack of a collective. We already know what that's about. And so that's going to be the challenge for some of us going forward. The president, the athletic director, and your head of your collective all going to have to sit down at the table and talk to us fans to see what can be done to make it work. If that conversation is not happening, then there's going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of some hysteria, because you don't know what to do as a fan. And do athletic departments know what to do? I think they do.
Well,
Right. But see, Carlos, that's why I think that the athletic departments, like at A&M, when I was coaching there, we used to go on tours. We used to tour as an athletic department. We just get on a bus, man, and we go visit different alumni chapters. This is when the athletic director has to put it on the table. Let the people know what the climate is like now. It has changed. So we need to tell them, go to these different chapters, let them know, hey, we need your help in raising money so that we can get the better athletes to come to our institution. Now, here's one of the ways that we can do this to raise money. We're going to put an extra few dollars on our season ticket package. That money will go towards these athletes. We're going to put an extra tab on just a game day ticket. That money will go toward. So I think if the public understands what the money is being used for, I think they'll be more receptive. But right now, you got too many alums. They just talk, oh, the ticket prices are too high. We're going up. What is it for? I think we need to be proactive and explain to them why we're doing this, because we're trying to remain viable, man. If we don't get it done, man, we're not gonna get the athletes. I think our alums and our fans need to know and understand that.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers to this, but we're gonna go to a timeout. Someone in the chat room says simply, donate, and they will come. And at the end of the day, the different layers, everyone is right. Now is the time to make step one.
Yeah.
How you say it? Talking about it, be about it. And once again, kudos to Jackson State. Oh, I've got to say that. It hurts my heart.
It is what it is.
That's right. They get it. They get it. And I've kind of taught, oh boy, let me go to the break. I'll come back. I'll come back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be right back.
I'm returning to Clinton Paris, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Paris, we take the pain out of being heard.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Attention football fans. The Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge kickoff is back in Atlanta on August 23rd. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC Southern. Join us at Center Park Stadium for a full day of tailgating, football, and bands. For more information and tickets, visit MEACSWACchallenge.com.
lighten up the moment. Welcome back to the Carlos Brown Show. Charles, will we one day see Alcorn and Tiger Stadium playing for that nice?
Yeah. If that phone call is made, we will be there. I guarantee you that. We're not gonna turn down $600,000 or whatever we would get from LSU. Absolutely, Grambling ain't turning down $1 million to go to Ohio State. That's for sure. Anybody that makes that phone call to any SWAC school that's offered $1 million, if you turn that thing down, you probably won't be there. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of like manna coming down from the high up. But at the end of the day, that's just a big glorious meal. How are we gonna eat every day?
Yeah.
We've back to our discussion, and we're gonna wrap it up. Then we're gonna get to our second discussion, which has been interesting as well. But before the break, I was talking about set up the scenario, specifically football. Southern's had success in basketball, men's and women, golf, new sports coming up, but they could use more of an investment, into athletics. But here's the scenario. And the cold hard facts, as it was laid out to me, you're recruiting, and say Jackson and Southern are recruiting the same athlete, and it happens. It happens.
Yes.
What? Oh, come on. Jackson State, what do they have to offer that they're getting? The collectives, that's one, what we talked about. The facilities. Their coach is winning. And by the way, he came up through the ranks. That's T.C. Taylor. And then Southern's recruiting that same player. Jackson has the advantage because of the two things I mentioned. Now, Southern has a legacy, winning programs like Jackson State does, right?
Yeah.
So it seems all equal until you get to that. And you notice I'm using Jackson State a lot because they get it. They're recruiting the same players, but the advantage goes to Jackson State now. That's the hard, brutal, cold facts. Now, Southern is recruiting the same player against Purdue and them. What do they have to offer? They have a lot, right? They made a change in their coach, but they don't have as many titles, quote unquote, than Southern has. So, advantage slightly Southern there. My point is, these kids, we're recruiting against each other and then outside the conference. So you got to make that step. In that scenario, Southern's losing out. Now, they still have outstanding players there, and you still got to coach them up, Coach Pettaway.
Oh, yes.
But let me ask you this question. Okay, so let's flip the script. You everything you laid out was fine. Let's say that Southern won the SWAC as compared to Jackson State. You talk about facilities and everything. We can move that aside. Would that flip the script? The fact that Southern made it to the SWAC championship game, didn't win it. Let's say they did win it last year, and now you got this new landscape. I mean, what's I guess my question in your scenario, what would be the difference if Southern won the SWAC and Jackson State did not? Would that flip the script, or is it just you look at the facilities?
Not totally. Not totally. Because, again, we're talking about the student athletes now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that would be enough to put them over the top.
Yep. Not now. It's the bag. Gentlemen, I promise you now, it's the bag. You can say what you want to. It's the bag that's going to make the difference. It's the bag that's going to make the difference. Before, when you went into somebody's house, they used to look at your roster, see if their child was going to get an opportunity to play. They look at your graduation rate, see if you're graduating kids. Those were the things that people and facility. That's what they looked at, right? They're not looking at that. That is way down on the totem pole now. The bag is taking priority.
I like to know what their athletes. I mean, I don't know if we can get that or not. I would like to see what that looks like. I mean, I'm glad that they're doing it because it shows that they're making a big commitment. But I like to see that. Maybe I can find that out. But obviously, they're doing something. What they're providing, giving, whatever it is more than. And I was correct on that thing. One does go to their collective and one goes to the band. I did see the comment about that. So if that's a difference maker, then hey, that's a difference maker. And I think we all have to, as Coach Pettaway said, but raising ticket prices brings a lot of consternation from our fans. And our athletic director mentioned that in a meeting recently, that going forward, if we're going to do this, we're going to have to raise ticket prices.
Right.
But with that comes a higher expectation of winning. And, from our fans, and I talk with our fans all the time, our fans right now are still in a consternation standpoint because of how the season ended against Jackson State. I'm being perfectly honest with you, Carlos. And your favorite phrase, move on, for some of our fans, we haven't moved on. And it is not up to me to judge that. If they don't move on, they don't move on. But
are they doing? But I understand that. That's the emotional part.
Right.
But it's one thing to complain, but you're complaining or your feelings are
they're buying season tickets.
But it comes more to that.
I know.
I get. But if you're complaining, but you're giving, that's one thing.
Right.
It's one thing. Go ahead.
They're complaining and they are giving, but there's an expectation of seeing a better product, and because of that, they're still going to give. But there's a lot of belly aching that comes with that because of the high level of expectation. Southern University's winning, Prairie View's doing some stuff. So all these things come with that giving. Like you want to get value for your buck, and value from our fans is a quality product, a winning product, a championship product. We haven't won a championship in years. We've got a second-year coach. We've got 4 games on the road to start the season, and these are just some of the folks that I've talked to. Now, of course, I'm supportive regardless, but some of our fans, I'm just speaking Alcorn fans. Some of them going to support regardless, but some of them are in this new landscape. Okay, yeah, I'm going to give, but, there's some caveats to that. And I think that's what you're going to see, in my opinion. You're going to see caveats added to it. Yeah, I'm going to donate to the collective, but I'm expecting to see this, that, and the other. And I think that's the brutal conversation or the hard conversation that's going to have to be had. Yeah, I'm going to give, but what's that but look like?
Yeah.
And can I throw this in about the Jackson State part of it? Could it be the fact that Jackson State and the people around the Jackson State program are still living on the Deion Sanders effect and what he actually brought to that program that actually helped to put them in a position where they're marketing better than anybody else in the conference right now? And you're dealing with young men and young ladies who are social media crazy now. Everything that they do is surrounded around the social media. And so right now, the reason why Jackson State would probably have the edge over Southern is because they're just doing a better job of just marketing the program and putting it out there. And that Deion Sanders effect is lingering over that program right now.
I agree.
I would take that. I would accept that. But I think going back to what Charles was talking about, I think transparency is the biggest. It is the big trademark. I think you got to let the alumni and fans know up front what's going on. Let them see it. Just throwing a charge out there and not explaining what the charge is for. I think people be more receptive, man, because they see every day. They just watched the draft just like we did. They heard the same comments about kids making more money in college than they will in their first rookie contract. So these are things that going forward, we got, if we want to be about winning, we got to be about letting our alumni and fans know that they got to be better participants in helping our athletic program to become a winner. Because if you're not going to help them, you're going to lose ground, man. You're going to lose more ground. Let's say it that way. You're already losing ground. You'll lose more ground. So it's got to be about it, man. Go ahead, Alex.
I heard Tremaine Jackson say something, the head coach of Prairie View A&M University, talk about this. He said that one of the major issues that he was seeing, even at Prairie View, is not the fact that Prairie View doesn't have a fan base. He says because we'll have 65,000 people show up outside of the stadium, but they won't pack the stadium for the homecoming game.
Right.
And so you have that type of effect that is happening, like where people have the abilities, the resources to do what we're talking about, but they're not about, Coach, what you just said, the action part of it. And so what can we do from a transparency standpoint and a marketing standpoint? And watch this. Again, a social media presence that says, we need you to be in this place at this time, because that is huge when it comes, again, to kids today, to young men and young ladies of this generation. Social media is where it is, and you have to have a greater presence of being able to put that out there.
Yeah.
I'm getting information coming in the spirit of professionalism. I'll put it this way: there are multiple layers to this situation, and it's going to be, it needs to be multiple solutions. It's one size don't fit all. I'm getting information in now that, bring it down a bit. Not all of the student athletes are getting paid handsomely at our institutions, including Jackson State. That's why I kind of started off with saying, what can we do? This is the genesis of this whole discussion. What needs to be done? How can we help? How can we invest more to help the student athletes? Because we've said it's a new day now. College athletics is ever changing. Some people use the term tsunami. So how do we change? It's like in a car. You got an older car and you got a V8. You got to change those spark plugs every now and then, right? And then sometimes you got to change not only the plugs, but the wire, the distributor cap, all of that. I'm just saying, what can we do to invest more and to help our student athletes? Because it's all about the student athletes. Some are in a better position to help within the conference. Some are not. I understand that. I get that. But let's remember, it's about the student athlete, and everybody. You're talking. It's not about a right or wrong. It's your perspective, and I happen to agree. He says when it comes to the ticket prices versus winning championship, it's like we back to the old question of what comes first, the chicken or the eggs. Ticket prices. You hear this all the time. It's more than just buying the season tickets. There's a student fee for athletics that is proposed or put out there for the student athletes or the students in general. So again, as we wrap this up, the question is, I just simply had a talk with someone, and it's like, what can we do to help the student athletes and invest more? And so we've had this conversation before. We understand there's different layers to all of this, but hopefully 10 years from now, we'll be talking about everyone has made that first step and everybody is doing the LSUs and the Georgias that you can't compare. That's apples and oranges. Apples and oranges. The gap is widening. But on our side of the equation, how can we do much better? And that's all I was kind of trying to say.
Right. And see, Carlos, even at that level in the SEC, all the athletes on those teams aren't getting collective. They don't get, all of them kids aren't getting money. That's why you hear the story. That's why you hear the stories about. That's why you hear the stories about some of the top athletes taking some of their money and sharing it with the other guys. That's why they're doing it, because everybody doesn't get a bag just because you go there. They're taking care of the kids that they think are going to help them to win. That's who's getting the money. That's who's getting the bag now. All the athletes aren't getting it. And then you know that a couple of weeks ago, we were trying to break down that 20.5 million that they were going to be allowed to give out. And I think it's still true. 75% of that will probably go towards football. Then after that, what are you going to give? 10 or 15 to men's basketball? Then most people are saying that they'll give women's basketball $1 million. Then they got $1 million for the rest of the other sports. Come on. Even that in itself is not right. But it goes back to show you that everybody's not going to get money.
Well, to your point, and you know, I often talk about my imaginary board that writes to me.
Yeah.
So again, in the spirit of not, you know, being professionalism, here's one text I just got. Yes, I agree. Everyone must do more. That was my main point of trying to get over. Just like the larger school, all student athletes are not getting paid.
Right.
To your point, you just said, Coach Pettaway, we have to think in the terms of the group of 5 model, because we can't talk about that top level. Also, transparency is definitely the right way to go. People got to step up and give unconditionally. So I know it's a disconnect a lot of times with the trust factor between, you know, the administration and the alumni, but it needs to come to a point now, to a head, where everyone comes in, buys in, and get it done. Boy, I'm getting some of the information I just can't reveal, but let me say this: it's not all doom and gloom with Southern University sports, and so if I portrayed it to be such, I was in error, and that's not what I was trying to relay. I was just trying to relay out that we need to do more as Southern alums, supporters, to help the student athletes. Now, within the conference, the same thing goes. You help and you give what you can, because college athletics has changed. And so that's what I want to say about that. Now, we're almost at the top of the hour, and then we got to get into the next big topic about Achilles, as I rub my Achilles now. Whoa, boy. But closing comments about this segment.
Well, I will say that if you just look at the athletic directors in this league, we've got a bunch of new ones. You know, Ashley Robinson, we've talked about him. AD Golf at Prairie View, he's been there a few years. Dr. Cable has been rock solid. Dr. Bryant is really winning over. I think what you're seeing now is you're seeing a new group of ADs who I do believe that are listening to our fans, understanding the new landscape, and in their own professional and in their own way will figure out a way to relay those concerns and needs to the fan base. I think back in the day, you know, it may have been a little bit different. The trust factor, that's something that has to be earned. But I think you have a group of ADs now that are willing to sit down and have these hard conversations and try to separate fact from fiction and try to get folks to get on board.
Right. And then I'm going to say what Ozzy was talking about, how that the young generation, they're media savvy, social media savvy. Now that's to reach them, but to reach those other alumni like me and people that are older than us, going to social media route is not the way to do it. Those people are used to in person or either a letter or something like that. They're not on social media to pick up everything. So if you want to be transparent, you have to go to where some of those people are in order to make a difference. And I just think that we just got to, all of us, not just Southern, all of the HBCUs, they got to step up and do their part for their own particular institution if they want to see them continue to compete at a high level.
Got to circle the wagons. Remember those old Westerns? Ozzy?
I'll say this. It's a model that we used many years ago in church. It says each one reach one.
Each one. Yeah.
And so somebody that knows has to reach out to somebody else and keep reaching until everybody is on board with what the vision is, not only for their particular college, but for the HBCU landscape. Until we can get to that point, we're going to be in some really tough areas to kind of get through at this particular point. But if we keep reaching out, and each one will reach one, we'll see things begin to eventually unfold and actually start to look like what it would look like on a P4 level, just on our level.
With that being said, interesting conversation. Interesting conversation. We're going to take the top of the hour break. When we come back, why are there so many Achilles injuries? And boy, it's many layers to this. All I can say is we'll discuss it when we come back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
There's a shot.
That might be.
It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern, Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEAC SWAC.
I believe that song's called The Golden Time of the Day.
Yeah. And And Carlos, you get that whole band in that arena for a basketball game, man, they will give you a headache, man. They don't do that tip, man. They do the whole band.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show, right here on the Black College Sports Network. Boy, I'm getting information left and right about the last segment. But we'll move on from that. We'll just say do more, help more, leaders lead. And now is the time to circle the wagons.
Yep.
And help out those institutions that we love. I pulled up an article why there's so many Achilles injuries in basketball, and some of the opinions you've gotten. Overuse is one, some accidental circumstances, but Carvin Guevara, a physical therapist and professor at the University of Delaware, compares today's calf injuries to the kind of hamstring strains that they've seen 5 to 10 years ago. And then they further go on to say, at this point, we need to start thinking about the calf and Achilles in the same way. Overuse, coincidence. Also, I've heard some of the perspectives on that from basketball players and we specifically talking about basketball, although it happens in other sports as well, football, that the overuse, AAU, kids are playing a lot more basketball. And I heard the commissioner of the NBA saying they're going to start looking, do some research on kids, athletes from the age of 11 to 19 and kind of monitor how much basketball they're playing. Now, at the end of the day, Willard's hasn't joined us yet, but I could see Willard saying, well, student athletes are not as tough as when we came up and look, we just went at it. Then you've heard perspectives about the shoes.
Yeah.
Low top, high top. With all that being said, it was a bunch of Achilles injuries this year. The commission mentioned that there were none last year. So there's different layers to this. And I've stated that 2 things can be true, or 3 things can be true at the same time. Coach Pettaway, we'll start with you. These Achilles injuries, and we see Damon Lillard, we see Howard. Also, I'm missing somebody. Who else? That Jason Tatum.
Yeah. But now,
They
Carlos,
all had injuries.
Right. Now, like you said, I don't think they're going to be able to just pinpoint it, but I think you can help yourself by, number one, wearing a shoe that has support for the Achilles. Back in the day, we wore high tops. And when you pull the strings up, then that gave you support around your ankle, around your Achilles, right? Now, I don't know. There's people in a better position than me to make this assumption. Is it the shoes or is it being overworked? And when you look at it, 2 of the guys that had Achilles injury played in the Olympics. Think about that now. So that's a long season. They never allowed their bodies to have rest. All right.
Overuse is where you go to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then I honestly feel that when it's all said and done, they're going to figure out that the shoes have something to do with it. I think they don't have enough support, whether it's the inner soles or whether they need to go ahead and raise them back up to where you got the high tops to where you can give more support to it. They just got to do the research on it, man. But it seems to be happening more in basketball because basketball is a quick spurt. The ones that happen in the open floor, all they're doing is just making a normal basketball move, and Achilles popping. And believe it or not, my Achilles went out in 1980. So that's what's been part of my problem. But here's the thing, and we were talking about this the other day. In 1980, when I tore my Achilles, they didn't operate on my Achilles. They put my doggone leg, they put me in a cast. They put me in a doggone cast, and then the cast was on too tight. I developed blood clots in my leg, and since 1981, blood clots have been in my body.
Yeah.
Because so we were never able to get them out. So they even treat Achilles different now, because in 1980 I did not have surgery.
Well, that's interesting. I didn't pop my Achilles like many of the athletes do when it happens. I basically had a bone spur, a huge one, and it was pressing on the Achilles. So they cut the Achilles, and I was down for about 3 months and what have you. But now I'm looking at this article on ESPN, and the question was asked, how easy is it to injure a calf? And Dr. Michael Fredrickson said it's not hard at all. And he's the director of physical medicine and rehabilitation for sports at Stanford. You use the calf, and see, that's the key thing. We're talking about the Achilles, but it's kind of like the calf and Achilles is one and the same. They interact with each other. He says it is one of the most common injuries if you combine calf injuries and Achilles injuries. And then they go on to talk about, stretching and the proper stretching before and after workout. But I'm going to go back to this, Coach Pettaway. I think multiple things can be true about this at the same time. It could be shoes.
Yep.
It could be overusage. And Charles, I would like to know if there's a study couldn't be done from that type of injury from the 70s and 80s to now. What is the similar things that contribute to it? What maybe was the difference? I guess you got to get some more of the data. But Charles, I say I think 2 or 3 things can be true at once.
Yeah, it is so unfortunate that you've had, when I think of all these Achilles, I think about the ACL. Remember a few years ago, a lot of players were getting ACLs. All you heard about in the NFL, ACL, and now it's this Achilles. I honestly, I don't know what can be done. I mean, in terms of the stretching, Ozzy's played football. He probably knows more about this in terms of just the body. But, I'm gonna, and I know some people chimed in on the shoes, and that may be a part of it too. I got Chuck Taylors myself. I got a pair of Chuck Taylors sitting right over there, because I think they're comfortable for me. I have a wide foot, so Chuck Taylors are wide for my feet. Nikes and others are not. They don't do it for me. But anyway, I think that I'm gonna say load management more so than shoes. I mean, these players are going through a rigorous season. You talk about the Olympics, and look, Halliburton had the calf injury prior to, but
he kept playing.
But it's a situation where we heard people say, well, the team should have saved him from himself and shut him down. Man, look, you're playing for a championship. You may never get back to this point again. And yes, there's always risk with that. And so I agree with Halliburton in a way. You may never get back to the finals. You may never get to Game 7. I mean, he's 26 years old. He's made all the money. You can't buy a championship. You got to go out there, play, and get it done. And he was cooking before he went down. So I get that part of it. But I think I'm going to say Charles Edmond's opinion. I think load management and just the load, the stress that you put on your ankle and your Achilles, the running, the jumping, all that over a period of 82 games, over 100 games, the Olympics, things like that. I mean, it's just so unfortunate. Your superstars have gone down for at least a year. Tatum's out for a year. Halliburton's out for a year. Dame Lillard's out for a year.
Yeah.
So I think, we got cheated. We got robbed of a classic Game 7 when Halliburton went down, because he was hot before he went down. I don't know what the answer is medically, other than maybe just take a load off, but I don't know if that's even realistic when these guys are making $50 million and they're playing for a championship.
Right. And now, Ozzy, if you remember Kevin Durant, when he tore his Achilles, remember he struggled with his calf first?
Mm-hmm.
He kept playing.
That's a connection.
His calf was hurting him. And then he went out, and then the Achilles went out on him. So it's all related. Now, that calf, the Achilles, the ankle, all of that stuff is related. It has to work properly. You mess around and you try to not put strain on one part of your that lower leg, and you put more stress on the other part. So that's what happens, man. And that it's unfortunate. They got to do a study. They got to figure out how this is happening, man. They got to figure. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Oz.
No, I was going to say, I was listening to, I believe it was Matt Barnes earlier this week. Matt Barnes made the comment that what's happening to a lot of the younger athletes in particular is that they're specializing in one sport. They're not having an opportunity to play multiple sports, which will actually give them an opportunity to kind of rest from one primary sport that they're probably better at. He was talking from the standpoint, he played all sports. He played, football, basketball, track, and baseball. So he had those periods where the body is in use, but it's not in use in the same capacity of running up and down the basketball floor. And when you have to do that on a regular basis, when you're doing this from the time that you're 5 or 6 years old and you're playing 40 and 50 games at that age, by the time you're 25, that you played a number of games and your body has just gone through major beatings. And when you don't have the abilities to be able to do the stretching and get the extra help that you will need to make sure that your body stays at a certain level at a young age, it only compounds as you get older. And I think what you're seeing with a lot of these guys is they've played so much in one sport for so long that it's starting to just cause their bodies to just break down. The one thing that the great Kobe Bryant did is even after basketball games, he's stretching, he's going to go work out. Why? Because he needs his body to be at a premium. Michael Jordan, I believe he was telling that to Kobe Bryant or one of the other guys, like, hey, make sure, maybe John Sally, if my memory serves me correctly, hey, after these games are over with, let's take advantage of the training staff that we have to work out some of these kinks. And then you have to start thinking, what kind of off-season programs are the players putting in for themselves? You're making this type of money for being a major athlete. What are you doing that's going to actually help you in the process also so that you can maintain? As the playoffs get here, you have to have another gear that you can go to. And these guys, I think Charles just mentioned it, load management. I think the schedule for the NBA may be just a little bit too lengthy. They may need to think about shortening the regular season so that they can have guys play throughout the totality of the playoffs. Now, injuries are going to happen, but I just think that when you start looking at it, they're going to have to start thinking about this from a player standpoint. What do I need to do to maintain and to maximize my abilities to be able to play at a high level and minimize the amount of injuries? LeBron James is what, 41 or 42?
40, 41, yep.
41? How many injuries has LeBron James had?
2 major, that's it. 2. Yep.
Two major injuries and almost over 20 years of basketball. So that tells you that he's doing something right for his body so that he can maintain premium abilities to be able to play. But I just think that it's overusage right now. Again, you got these guys 5 and 6 years old. They're playing 40, 50 games or more a year. They're going to basketball camp after basketball camp. It's only so much that your body can take. So at some point, the primary thing, watch this, guys, is rest. I'm an old Baptist preacher, so please forgive me.
Rest.
The body needs rest. Watch this. Rest is ordinary, it's temporary, but it's also necessary.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well,
Let
now,
the church say amen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let the church say amen. Now, I promise you, those owners are not going to shorten that schedule. They're making too much money. They're making too much money. So we got to look at another way of finding out what's going on with these athletes, because they're not going back on that schedule because there's too much money involved. And I just think that it's going to be a combination of things. You mentioned LeBron James. People don't talk about how much money he spends on his body.
$1 million a year.
Right. Almost $1 million on taking care of his body. he's had his injuries. I don't think he's ever missed a complete season. You know, his injuries only taking him out for parts of 2 seasons, I think. So, you know, Kobe Bryant, he was known for taking care of his body. Michael Jordan, he was known for taking care of his body because that was his investment. They looked at it as their investment. Then you got the other guys. Charles Barkley was never known for taking care of his body. Shaq was never known for taking care of his body. So I think with the money that they make, there's nothing wrong with investing in taking care of your body, whether that's through your diet, a personal trainer, and then I think they buy these machines that hyperbaric machines that Kobe them are talking about, and I think LeBron has one. If I made that kind of money, I would be investing in my body. I think it's paramount. Yep.
Well, on a collegiate level, if you don't have it, I think honestly put it just so simple. Sometimes it's just a simple resolution.
Rest.
Get rest. Know your body. And back to Charles, I'm gonna just call him TH. You know what I'm talking about, for Indiana. You know, he had warning signs. A lot of times you get warning signs. Not just even with Achilles, but you know, as we get older, and you can't ignore them. And so I cannot say anything against Halliburton for wanting to play the championship. As you said, it's not guaranteed to get back. But he had warning signs, that calf. Now, I think Kobe tore his Achilles. He was in his playing career.
Right, yeah.
I know LeBron has had some calf issues.
Yeah, it wasn't Achilles with LeBron now. It wasn't Achilles. Yeah.
No, but that calf is so important. Yeah. As I squeeze my calves now, they're a little tight. They're a little tight. But again, I think it's multiple layers to this. I think it's multiple solutions. You know, you could do a show on shoes. Take up the whole hour talking about what's the best shoe. What is this? But again, I'd like to see some of the studies, information from compare the 80s to 2000 and 2000s to present, and see how many the science to it as far as the numbers. But
they're also talking about, the one thing they're not talking about is load management. They're talking about the shoes. They're talking about this other stuff. But then players talk about load management, and what did the league come up with? You got to play 65 games, I think it is, to get whatever. I mean, the league doesn't want these stars sitting out all these games. You're paying primetime dollars to see Steph Curry and to see Halliburton and to see Jason Tatum, but he's out due to a calf injury, and you're paying $200 to see the Celtics play the Pelicans, and Tatum is out with a calf injury. And so fans want to see those stars play. But then the caveat to that is they got to play, all right, or else you could miss out on some stuff. But then you're banged up and you need to rest. So I think the league's got to take a look at that more so than the shoes and the other stuff. This load management stuff was talked about a couple of years ago. The league pushed back. They don't want to see their stars resting. And so now you have something like this, not saying it's tied to it, but I do believe this load management has to be addressed. And I don't know if it's going to change because the league wants to make the money. They want to see their stars play every night. Look at what you got now. You got
Don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath.
Well, I know. Yeah. I'm not holding my breath, but look at what you got. Ratings were down this year in the NBA, right? The Game 7 ratings were up because it was Game 7.
But it wasn't about those coming down. It wasn't solely about the injuries or the stars.
Well, what I'm saying is that next year, the NBA is a star-driven league. People want to see stars. Next year, you're going to have some of your top stars not playing the whole year. What is that going to look like with that? So I think it's a very tricky conversation you're going to have here. But I think the load management piece, which is something that probably needs to happen to a certain extent, I don't see that happening. So I think we're in kind of a dilemma, at least in my opinion.
Well, and I think that was Jay Williams that made the statement that this year alone, the pace of the NBA has been the fastest pace that has ever been. Like 109 possessions throughout the course of a game. That's a lot of getting up and down the floor throughout the course of a basketball game. That's a lot of wear and tear.
Well, I would like to see then in the 80s and 90s. I don't want to get into styles of play, but it was different. Why did those athletes, unless the numbers show us different, why they didn't have all of that? Sounds like, hey, they weren't playing at a faster pace as back then. Is that what they're saying?
That's what I would believe that it is, that the pace wasn't as fast, but there were times where the game was a fast up and down the floor style of basketball play, but I believe that was dictated on what was going on at that particular moment. So I do believe that there were a few more sets that were being run, and they were playing a little bit more of the, I don't want to use antiquated, that would be such a bad term, but they were using more of a traditional style of basketball at that particular point in comparison to now, which is a little bit more European, a lot faster, a lot of up and down, not a lot of defense necessarily being played at this particular point. So I think the other part that you have to factor in is that people in general today want to see the 120s and so on and so forth type of basketball games. People don't want to see competitive 75 to 80 basketball scores because they don't feel like that's hot. That's not exciting. That's not mini skirt sexy. Let me just put it out there. You know, at any level, it's just not for people of today's time. For us, we love a good competitive game because we see all of the little nuances and we love to see those types of things. We love to see people grind and work for it. Well, in today's society, it just doesn't work that way. And so I do believe there is a certain level of play that the Lakers played at that was still run and gun, that was fun basketball, but there was also a level of play that the Celtics played at that was run and gun, that was still great basketball. So you just have to find that fine balance of being able to shift the game as necessary so that your bodies are not being broken down as much.
Oh, see layers, and then you open up a layer, another layer comes out. Then, so what I'm hearing is that the fast pace, you mentioned the European style. We've talked about that before. 7-footers are now believing that they're shooting guards, point guards. Good point. I like the traditional way, but you have to be able to adapt as well. Coach Pettaway, would you say the Michael Jordan era, in that era, were better athletes, or were they tougher, or that's not the case? Because that's another argument that comes up all of the time. And here's the framework. Well, those older guys, you know, they don't think we have talent like they did. You kind of see that argument comes up. I personally like the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. And then the point was made, I think, about with Charles and Austin about the ratings. I don't think the ratings is exclusive about the injuries and not seeing the stars. It's the style of play. Yeah. Am I wrong about that? I mean, I could be wrong.
No. I think you're right, Carlos. And then I'm going to tell you this. In the Michael Jordan day, they were tougher because that's the way the game was officiated. Mm-hmm. You know, they allowed them.
Don't say that, Coach Pettaway, because some of the new, no, you're right. I agree with you. But some of the new age will be like, oh, well, look, y'all trying to say we're not tougher mentally. But go ahead.
No. I'm saying physically in Michael Jordan's era, the game was called in a different manner. They allowed the physicality. They had the no layup rule. You went in and dunk on somebody if you want to, you get your neck broke, man. They were after you, right? So the game was physical. So now I would say that there are more athletes today than it was back then. The kids are more athletic now. But here's the thing. I don't think personally, if they change the rules, these kids will be effective like they are now. So you can't touch anybody on the defensive end of the floor.
Can't
So
have check.
there's more freedom to movement. So that's why they're better offensive players now. Back in the day, they could armbar you or put one hand on you and hold your butt in place where you couldn't go anywhere. So the physical, I think the officiating has a lot to do with the two different styles that we're seeing in basketball now. And yes, more and more athletes now are more athletic. That's why you see the 6'11s that play like guards, the 6'10. Look at Cooper Flag, he's 6'10. He's not but a guard. But he's tough enough that he can sit down in the play. He's tough enough where he can play with his back to the basket. He's physical enough to where he can punk you down in that box. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys that can play on all levels. Cooper Flag can do that. And he is now. They want to say what they want to. That's the next great white hope. I'm telling you that right now.
Well, I'm going to put it out there. I just believe that if you could compare and put them side by side, that latter group I talked about, of the early the 80s and 90s, they were the better athletes and they were better players. Michael Jordan said he could average 60 points now, to your point, the way the rules are.
Right. Because back then they held him. They hit him. You can't do that now. You be putting him at the free throw line where his average is going to go up because he was a good free throw shooter. Yep. And then, when we were talking about, with the draft, you look at the players that were drafted now. Mentally, some of these kids just aren't ready. You take the kid that Utah drafted. We still got to wait to see if he's going to make up his mind whether or not he's going to go. What kind of mess is that, Paulo? When have you seen that? It's a privilege to be in the NBA. And then now you're going to try to dictate where you go, and you're not the top player. Come on, man. Our mindset, our mentality has changed, man. What's the word? These kids are privileged. They're asking and getting more and more, and they haven't earned anything. This kid is not playing 1 minute. Entitlement. Thank you, Isaac. Thank you. They're entitled. We got to get away from that, man. We got to get away from that.
Let's hold it right there. Let's get a break in. I want to kind of
thank you,
go into the chat room and get some of their comments or questions. So if you have one after this break specifically, we can have it for discussion. And then last but not least, the NBA Finals. And let me direct this quickly to EA. He says if I make a prediction, it's a kiss of death.
You made one.
Well, put it this way. I predicted OKC to win it all.
Yeah.
And then also in the aftermath, after the season, a lot of things are going. Also, now we can talk about Durant and Coach Pettaway and Charles and Austin. Do not tell me about how, and some of the national prognosticators have stated, Miami missed out on Durant. We'll talk about that. We'll be back after this timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern, Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
It's like a loot machine. Going around town trying to get down. It's like a loot machine.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed. Pat.
Calm down. We're gonna discuss about the I stand by what I said last week. We didn't need Kevin Durant. Okay, sir? I'll call you after the show.
That's all right.
Wheeler, we finally got you in. I'm sorry, I was so into the conversation. How long were you waiting?
Probably about 20 minutes or so.
Oh, my.
Yeah, about 20, 25 minutes. But, stay softer, Carlos. Stay softer. Bottom line, I call it like I see it. Right. Today's kids are softer, period. You know? Carlos, we ran on the asphalt all day in shoes that wasn't worth a dime. No support. Those Converses and Kids and Jack Purcells and whatever fish heads, whatever else you want to call them, with no support. And we ran all day long. We played all day long. Okay, and nowhere near the kind of injury, I don't know if you want to call it freakiness or, whatever, that's going on, that's going on now. We can talk about style of play. We can talk about all that nonsense that we want to. Bottom line, the better athletes are doing what it takes to take care of themselves. I heard Ossie talk about LeBron and, Coach Pettaway talk about LeBron and those guys that spend money on themselves. Yep. And the guys that spend money on themselves don't have that issue.
Yep.
But those that don't, they're the ones that are getting hurt. Load management. Come on now. Geez.
That's what we call it.
I almost threw up one time. Oh, geez. Come on.
That's why we call you the hard line.
You can't play 48 minutes of basketball. If you take your behind home in the evening and go to bed, as opposed to hanging in the club all times of the night and driving 101 miles an hour. You know, you wouldn't have these issues. I'm sorry. You know, I gotta call it. I gotta call it like I see it. You can't not work hard, Carlos, and say they should cut down on the games early on, because of the simple fact of the matter becomes, if you're gonna make it to the next level, you gotta put the work in.
Yep.
You got to be seen. You got to, people got to be ringing, your name got to be ringing out. And if it's not, nobody knows who you are, that sort of thing. You're not going to ultimately be able to take that step to the next level. So you got to work hard early on in order to get that notoriety that you're going to need in order to ultimately make that step to the next level.
Yep.
But at the same time, at that early age, you got to do a better job of taking care of your body, taking care of yourself. You got to eat good. You got to rest. You got to come out the street, go to bed at night. The whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Well said, Wheeler.
I'm off my soapbox now. I took some Pepto-Bismol.
Well, I often say it's about perspectives and opinions, and you have facts in there. Before you came on in the first hour, I said, I know Wheeler's going to say about the toughness issue. I nailed that one, right? Well, I got a feeling this show will have some more of this conversation next week with other guests. Now to the NBA. Congratulations to OKC, and boy, they've had the parade. You have everybody now with the post-championship analysis. At the end of the day, there are many layers to this. OKC was a better team.
Yes.
Indiana played extremely well. You saw Harvard go down, and you got to block that out, and you got to still play, and they did. Indiana, proud of them. They gave their darndest. They played hard, but OKC is the champion. Now, to the post season, now there's a lot of activity going on. The draft was just held. By the way, Pat Riley, good pickup for their only pick in the first round at 20th. They got Coach Pettaway, you appreciate this, a pick and pop guy. This guy, he's a foreigner, not a native of America, but there were three, I read a statistic, there were three players in the history of the Big Ten that averaged 15 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. I didn't know one of the other guys, but I do know one of the guys, Irvin Magic Johnson, and now the young man that the Miami Heat picked up. He was ranked 10th on all these different boards, and he fell to 20th. And you could also see the disappointment of some of the athletes in the room that they didn't get called early in the first round. We can also say this. A lot of people made it past the first round. They got drafted and went on to have great careers. As Wheeler said, they put in the work. They rest their bodies. And that's what they do. It's a physical component to this, but it's also a mental component to this. So I don't want to go back to who's tougher, who's physically better mentally. People on the panel have given their opinions on that. Now, specifically to nail down to Durant, we had a huge discussion last week, Wheeler, as far as which team he would end up going to. He ended up going to Houston, as I thought he would probably go to a younger team. Now, you heard me talking to Pat Riley. And a lot of the national prognosticators were kind of pissed off at why Miami didn't do all that they can to get Durant. To the panel, to Coach Pettaway specifically. He's 37.
Yeah.
He's on the twilight. He's still a great scorer. But the simple question came down to me, and then this is what I'm going to ask the panel. I didn't want, as a Miami fan, to give up so much, and specifically Mr. Ware at center, young talent, for a short-term go. What do you say, Coach Pettaway?
Carlos, I agree with you and Miami 100%. You don't bring in a guy like Durant and give up the farm to get him, because he's toward the end of his career. Ware and all those guys here, the shooters, they're young guys. Put more pieces around them. The right move was for him to go to Houston. They did not have to give up as much. They gave up Jalen Green, who disappointed them down the stretch. They were not able to count on him. They're not going to miss him. They made up for that by bringing in Durant. Houston did not have to give up the farm to get a veteran player. They needed a closer, right? Durant can close for them. That's what Houston didn't have last year. He can help them close out basketball games. So it was a great move for him to go there. Miami did the right thing. Do not give up your assets to get a guy that's only got a couple more years left in it.
Hell, I was trying to get him to Los Angeles and make Charles happy. But Charles, would you ever wanted him?
Yes.
I think it depends on what you had to give up, right, Charles?
Yeah. I mean, you got Luka, you got LeBron. What assets would you give up? Would you give the Rock? Would you give Phoenix back? I mean, I'm just looking at those. I mean, the Lakers do have assets. I mean, if you have that combination, Durant, Luka, and LeBron, man, I mean, you got two old guys and a young guy. I think the Lakers would be much improved. But to give up, I mean, they gave up 4 or 5 second-round picks. A lot of people say that's not that big of a deal. Jalen Green was definitely a disappointment, and he was disappointed. Like, man, I led my team and scored in the playoff series, and I get shipped out. Like, what the hell's going on with that? But he was a disappointment. But I think to answer your question, if I was Jeannie Buss, I would take a serious look at Kevin Durant. But the haul to give up to get him, I don't know if I was going to go that far with it.
Yeah. Because, see, Ozzy, isn't that what their problem is now? They don't have a big. The Lakers don't have a big. So now you bring Durant in, you still don't have a big. Now, if you couldn't fit a big in before Durant got there with his salary, you definitely weren't going to have any room to bring anybody else in. So it wouldn't have been a good move for the Lakers. Yeah, if they had more people that were contributing off the bench, and if they already had another big, then to me, you bring Durant in. But the Lakers right now, they got to go get some help in that paint, man. They're not big enough.
Yeah.
They're not big enough, and they're not athletic enough on the wing. They can't defend.
Yeah.
They cannot do. Now you look at this year's draft, Carlos. You all keep talking about all these big players. How many wing players were drafted this year? Wings, 6'6", 6'5" players. That's what the NBA is going to. Guys that can play multiple positions. Guys that can defend on the perimeter. That's what you need in college. You don't necessarily have to have the aircraft carrier in the middle to win on the collegiate level. If you got some wing players that can defend and score, you can be successful. Look at what the NBA is doing. OKC, go down there, line up. They don't have a bunch of bigs. They got athletic people that defend. Look at Indiana's lineup. They don't have a bunch of bigs. They got athletic people. They got wing players that can play multiple positions, and they can defend. They get in your doggone jock strap. Oh, I forgot. They don't wear jocks no more. They get in your butt. That's what they do. They get in you, man. And that's what the game is going to.
Coach Johnson
Coach Pettaway, the ball ain't going inside anyway. The ball
right,
ain't going
that's what
inside
I'm saying.
no way.
Right.
So what
It's
you
on
need
the
a big
perimeter.
for? You don't need no big.
Yep.
So wait a minute. Somebody just talked about that on the collegiate level. I know it's enticing to have those bigs, but I said you got to have athletic bigs, not staying out on the perimeter shooting 30-footers.
Window dressing.
Window
dressing. That's all.
Right.
Airport conversation. Wow, look at the big guys walking through the airport.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Inside out, positionless, and wing players. That's the style of play now. Go ahead, Pat.
Yep. You had more wings to get drafted this year than in the last 2 or 3 years, man. And that now the NBA has always been a copycat league. So everybody's looking at what OKC did. They're looking at what Indiana, how they built their team. And now they're trying to do the same thing.
So now where does that put, Coach Pettaway, where does that put now with Durant going to Houston? Now the prognosticators are saying you can put Houston along with some of the top teams in the West with the OKCs and the Dallases of the world. And now you got to consider them as Western Conference contenders.
Right, because he's a closer. See, they didn't have a closer. Okay, I'm serious. When you going down the stretch with Houston this past year, who were they going to get a basket? They didn't have a guy that they could depend on a consistent basis to get them a basket in the crunch time. Now they got one. Durant can get it from the perimeter. He can create his own shot. He can take you down low. He is a guy, he's a bucket getter, and that's what they needed. And now you take his experience with that young team that's going to defend, make up for whatever mistake he made. Yes, that's why they're saying they are contending. But I'm going to tell you who you sleeping on now. Everybody's sleeping on Dallas. Now they got Cooper Flag. Man, y'all better get ready now. You already got Lively down there. And then you got Anthony Davis. When Kyrie gets back, Dallas is going to be a team that you're going to have to deal with because you got Flag that can play 3 different positions, and he's going to make that team a better team because he defends. He plays on both ends of the floor.
You know what, Coach Pettaway?
Yes.
This might be mean, but I'm testing his behind right away.
They are. Like that.
And if he proves to me, because I said the same thing about Larry Bird. Oh goodness, he can't jump off a stack of dimes.
Yeah.
After one game, Coach Pettaway, I changed my mind. So with that being said, quickly, the way too early. OKC number 1 in the West. Who is 2, 3, and 4?
I say Dallas and Houston. Well, no, I'm sorry, not Dallas right away because Kyrie is gonna miss so much of the season.
And Anthony Davis, can he stay healthy?
And then I think Houston will be up there, and probably Denver will probably bounce back.
I'm gonna say the New York Knicks.
Talk about in the West. In the West.
I'm sorry. In the West. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about overall. I would put Dallas up there. I would put Houston. Okay, Dallas, Houston, OKC.
Yeah.
In that order?
OKC 1.
Houston.
I will put Dallas. No, I will put Houston 2.
Yep.
And Kyrie's with his injury, I will put Dallas 3.
Yep.
Wow, we've just forgot about. See, here we go. A good piece of news. Sensationalism.
Minnesota, you talking Timberwolves?
You forgot about Minnesota and Denver.
I'm not there with Minnesota. I'm not. I don't know if Ann is a wonderful player, but I'm not quite sold on the Timberwolves quite yet. Even though they've been there, they've been. I'm not. I'm sorry.
Ozzy, what you think?
I'm gonna agree with the top 3 picks. I'm gonna go with OKC. I'm gonna go with Houston. I'm definitely going to probably go with Dallas, but I'm gonna slip Minnesota in.
Mm-hmm.
I think Minnesota is actually a better ball club than what they showed probably against the Indiana Pacers. And let me tell you why I even say that is because if you go back and you really look at it, they had to really grind to beat New York. And so by the time that they got to Indiana, I think all of their bullets had been shot at that particular point. But they're not a bad basketball team. I just think that they are a little bit better than Denver is right now.
Now, I'll give you all some credit with Minnesota. They made an adjustment because everybody was attacking Rudy, and they hid Rudy. They hid Rudy, and they were not as successful. I promise you that. Yep. But now, Carlos, are you going to look at the East? What you think about the East, Carlos?
I'm looking at the comments. What about Golden State? What about Denver? But back to Houston. They made good money. And the Spurs, another team that I thought Durant would fit in perfectly. Oh boy, we run out of time here. With the East, it's wide open. The effect of, and we'll talk about this next week about Boston and Toronto Raptors manager got let go.
Yep.
Boston is splitting up their team.
Right.
You know, the second apron is deadly for everybody. That's the second luxury tax. Boston moved from under the second, but they're still over the first. Oh boy, what's going on here? But specifically, yeah, New York is probably in the top, but they can't get a doggone coach. They're talking now to the assistant coach on the Pelican staff. What a dumb move! What a dumb move, the Knicks. But anyway, I digress. You got Orlando, you got Cleveland. Cleveland a big disappointment.
No. But hey, you know they just got a ball today, this morning.
I didn't check with Laurent. Mr. Ball.
Ball is at Cleveland now.
See, but I didn't think that was the problem with the backcourt. But anyway.
But I'm just saying that makes them more of a threat in terms of a transition team. I think it makes them a little bit better. They're deeper. So in the East, I got New York and Cleveland.
Yeah.
I got New York and Cleveland in the East.
I will go with Cleveland 1 and New York 2. To the point of the coach, I don't know what the Knicks are doing. They never should have got rid of Tibbs, but that's water under the bridge. I'm gonna give Cleveland that slight edge at 1 and the Knicks 2, depending on the kind of coach they get. If they get the wrong kind of coach that's not the right fit, I don't think they'll finish 2, even though they've got the talent.
Right.
Well, it's a simple old thing. The superstars are really running that team. Why not just go with a player coach? No. Back in the day, somebody asked, do you believe any team in the East has a chance to win the NBA championships? Yeah, the Pacers will be back. I believe so as well.
No, I don't think the Pacers will be back with Halliburton out. No.
Yeah, but Coach, that's a dramatic injury, but I think they have a lot of pieces. No, Charles, you can shake your head.
I just think he was the glue.
He's a glue, but they do have some outstanding players there. They do.
I agree.
They're gonna be heard of.
What about Philadelphia with if Joel Embiid is healthy? We haven't talked about the Sixers.
There's nothing to talk about. My best friends is the 76ers. Joel Embiid can't stay healthy, and then he likes to play out in the perimeter too much. I'll say this: when healthy, when not out hanging out on the 3-point line, he is the hardest player to guard. He's unguardable to me.
Yep.
But I'll leave it at that.
And they got Maxey to go with it, so they got talent on that team. But his health is the reason why I didn't even look at them.
Well, and then I hold it personal against Philly. Sorry, 3, 2, 1. I thought Miami was going to get Maxey, and Philly got him. I love the way Maxey plays. He is the heart and soul of that team.
Yep. So in the East, I'm gonna stick with Cleveland and New York. But I do believe that the next championship will still be won by a Western team.
Well, that's your answer in the chat room. Okay. Anybody in the East? The Knicks probably, and Cleveland. Yeah, I would agree with that. So we got to wrap it up.
Yep.
Okay. I apologize for getting in late. We started a little bit late on the show. But I want to thank Melanie, our producer, everyone in the chat room. We appreciate you. We'll continue this conversation next week because it's still many layers.
Gotcha.
To the conversation. And Willa, I apologize to you.
That's all right.
We'll get you back in and let you be full loaded. Until next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Pat, I'm going to call you back. Hey, y'all better get it straight down there. Peace and God bless.